Hey, folks, it is Friday. And, most people may already be home. I don't know if we have like a weekend thing anymore. If you're already home doing work, you're home from school, what the heck's a weekend? I'm RG Skadberg, and we used to do a little thing when we could called Tips from the Bar. Now that there's no bars, we've had to modify a little bit. So we're going to have sort of a Tips Sansa bar with the happy hour edition here on Friday. I've got good news. Hence me wanting to jump on and share it with you. If we have to look for lights in the clouds or silver linings in the clouds, I think there's a couple that can be addressed today. Who doesn't love watching the governor's press conference? I don't know how many people have watched most of them. I'd be one over the course of the last couple of weeks. It's a regular schedule on my calendar if I don't have a meeting with a client. So try to listen to what's going on down in Indianapolis. It's hard sometimes for that information to filter all the way up here, gravity and all. So I wanted to share a couple of things. On Monday, I did a Facebook, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, did a Facebook Live talking about unemployment. Maybe you recognize this from such videos as Unemployment for You. We talked about workers, and there's a whole group of people that were going to be entering into the unemployment filing ranks that wouldn't normally be there. The other term, since we had that video, they've started using the term self-employed, which was a term I was trying to stay away from because they weren't using it. They were using independent contractor and gig economy worker, but now they have started coming out to the self-employed because there are people that fit into self-employed. We've got some updates about these people. Got some really good news updates for these people. These are the regular employees who have lost their job and who would normally be filing for unemployment in a circumstance like this. So we'll dig into that just a little bit. But in fact, I'll start right there. The news that came out yesterday was that the money from the feds has found its way to the coffers of the state. And there were some things that the state did over the course of the last night and through some things that they've been working on. And if you are receiving benefits, unemployment benefits, you should start to see that extra $600 a week in your next check. They're not going to do a special deposit, as I understand it, but they are doing they're going to be adding it in. So I think a few people, I don't know exactly when those check things come out, but one of the things that was stated is those are out now and available. So if you were to be getting a check, let's say today, the governor and the director of workforce development didn't correct him, said that there is this money that is out there now. So you may have already seen it if you got a check today. Otherwise, checks start dropping next week. They're expecting something like $200 million to either be available or actually out for people starting next week. So great. That's going to be a big relief for a lot of people. But depending on when you qualify, they will go backwards to pick up that period of time that they're making up for. So maybe that's why there's such a big chunk that's going out right away. But anyway, good news. If you are in the system and you are receiving unemployment benefits, that $600 is going to be there in your next check, it sounds like. Now, if you are in the system and waiting for approval or waiting to find out if you do, in fact, qualify for benefits, obviously this isn't going to jump over that. You'd still be in line waiting for this other stuff to come through, but it would be added to the first distribution that you would get. So good news. How about that for those of us? And that's a big shift from where we were on Monday when I had watched the press conference from the prior and even that morning or that afternoon. There was still a big question as to when those dollars were going to be actually out there for people to be able to use. I'm trying to multitask here, and sometimes that works better than other times. But anyway, that is out there. That is great. Now, so that's for the people here in the regular unemployment benefit category. Monday, just a quick recap. We were talking about the term workers. There's different types of workers. Those that are employees of a company, meaning you are just you just have this relationship where you work for someone. That's your job. They have a job for you. They pay you a salary. They take taxes and pay taxes, and that's your relationship with your employer. There are other people who are either independently contracting themselves out to someone. The workers in the gig economy, the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Shifts, those were people that would otherwise have been 1099 employees, 1099 contractors, if you will, with those companies. They didn't pay you benefits. They didn't pay your taxes. There was a number of things that made you your own person. That term self-employment started being used this week when I was listening down in Indianapolis. It was not something that they were using in previous positions, but it's a better descriptor of a person that maybe works in a salon. You don't consider yourself an independent contractor. You don't get a 1099. You pay rent. And it's just, I'm a self-employed person that happens to rent space from someone, and I have my own clientele and I have my own tools, and I do what I do. And that's my job. Normally, this category of people wouldn't qualify for traditional unemployment benefits. So this federal money that's coming down, the $600 a week that we've heard about, these people are going to qualify for that. And here's the other bit of good news that came out yesterday. Now, I'm going to say I have to qualify this ever so slightly. We're having trouble playing this video. Maybe it's not playing. I don't know. I don't know if I'm having internet issues today. I may just be talking to myself. But, I used to work in radio. That's pretty much talking to myself. Let's go back to here, which makes me believe that I'm here. Let me just drop this and see. We're going to test this. Okay, it seems like it's working. All right, well, Sim, commented by me. I do not understand. Just don't get the whole face. This is where I feel older and older by the minute. Okay, so that said, thanks, Tim Kramer. I'm live. That's fantastic. I was going to check my pulse. That would have been the next thing I would have had to check. So I was saying, normally these people wouldn't apply for benefits because they wouldn't qualify for benefits because an employer didn't pay into a benefits program, which would pay them back if they became unemployed. The Fed said we've put a lot of people out of work, and so we're going to compensate them by doing this $600 a week to everybody who would qualify as an employee, a worker, right? A worker, either an employee or now this self-employed independent contractor gig economy worker. So the news update yesterday came down the pike. The state of Indiana Workforce Development has a target date of, they were really, really emphasizing this as a target date of April 24th, that an application will be made available on their website, that if you're in this category, despite the fact they already told you to go through this process to get to this point, to get denied, you're going to go back to their website and you're going to fill out some information to make sure that you fit into this category in their eyes to qualify for that $600. That's good news because there is no system for this to work. There is no system in place for this to be able to just happen. So our state's been working diligently. They finally came up with this parallel system, and the target date, again, that's their target date. Anybody involved with project management, especially software development, target dates are sometimes pie in the sky. We'll cross our fingers and hope that this one's right on target. But April 24th, there will be information on their website where you will be able to go and enter your information, and that will let them figure out whether you are in this group of people that would qualify for that $600 a week. And remember, it will, once you prove out where you entered the unemployment world, it will go backwards to as far back as March 27th, I believe, is when, well, that's when that's when the CARES Act was signed. They did it. It was my birthday. It was like a little present from the government, I guess. Something to talk about for several months. It will go back to that date, and once you have your qualification date, then that's how far they will go back to. But again, good news, April 24th, target date. The otherwise, self-employed, independent contractor, gig economy worker will be able to go to unemployment.in.gov and then follow a process to put some information in, prove that you are in fact self-employed, and get your name in the hat for the $600 a week. Now that pays out for a certain period of time. It's not forever. We don't know how long the rest of this is going on, but it will in fact prove out, at least through, I think it's the end of July. The other bit of information in conjunction with that is they're going to open that application on the 24th. Then their target date for actual dollars distributed, May the 4th. Not too many Star Wars jokes will be made. Star Wars jokes will be made about that. But May the 4th may be with you as your date to start getting money. So that is good news all around for both of those things. All right, so then that dealt with the sort of revisiting Monday's video and talking about unemployment. Some pretty substantial rocks had to move to go from what we talked about on Monday to knowing now some hard dates that some action is going to actually be taken. So that's good. Congratulations to our state for getting that stuff done. The other thing that was talked about today, it was alluded to yesterday, that what we're still under this stay-at-home order, or as our governor likes to call it, the hunker down Hoosiers. I think that's what he calls it, hunker down Indiana. That's still in place. It was set to expire under the current executive order on Monday, the 20th. Yesterday, it started creeping out that the governors right around us had been talking about what's a plan to start to phase back into a lesser stay-at-home order. And the Ohio governor came out and said, hey, May 1st, we're going to start doing some things differently. And so our governor yesterday was asked, does that mean we will too? And he was quick to point out, we all do things differently. We want to work in conjunction with each other, but we have our own standards that we have to meet. Our data is different than their data. Our population at risk and things are different than their populations. I mean, Ohio is a much bigger state, big metropolitan areas in multiple places. We've got Indianapolis. We've got a little bit down in the southeast, and we've got a fairly decent amount in the northwest, and then a little place over in northeast. So our state looks entirely different than Ohio. But that said, the announcement today was we're extending the stay-at-home, hunker down Indiana, to the end of the month. The significance of that is the order has been in 2-week increments prior. The kickoff of April 21st to the end of the month is only 9 days, if my math is right. And as I tell people, I went to law school. I didn't go through an MBA program because I was math impaired. So the reality of that is that's shorter than 2 weeks. Also, math problem I'm working out of my head here. 9 days, less than 14. And that should put us on a path to reevaluate what May 1st looks like. Now, oddly, our state's been in this 2-week increment. May 1st falls on a Friday, so that's sort of undercut by a couple of days. I'm not sure how much of a difference it'll make. But what that did signal was that there's going to be some thought process given. Not only was it a signal, but then he went further to say they have actively begun seeking counsel from industry leaders, state agencies, associations, to give some feedback about what each of their individual worlds looks like if we start to come back out of this full, essential lockdown that we're in now. What does that look like if we start to loosen the bonds a little bit and let us see what happens in that scenario? So the table that he set today was they started soliciting information yesterday from manufacturing leaders, associations, government agencies, and everybody's been tasked with what would you do different if we open the doors a little bit and tried this for a while. Now, you may or may not have seen that the folks in Washington released this 3-phase gated thing and as guidelines for the states to look at and determine how you wanted to apply to your own circumstance. And so there was some conversation with that between the press and the governor today. They are guidelines. There's no stipulations in there. There's no pressure to do more or do less. It's basically here's what we would think would be a good way to open the gate a little bit and see what the results would be. And your goal is to just make sure you don't see a mass rush of, we've been pushing this curve down, they keep saying, and we haven't seen the surge. There's all these things that we've been looking at. And there's some interesting conversations. I would say there's some interesting conversations. Most people probably don't think it is. Talking about what are the data points you're looking at, because it's not just about positive results, because the reality is the positives are trailing reality due to the time it takes for tests to get through the system and test results to be reported as positive or negative to the state agency that's tracking all that information. So what they would also look at would be hospitalization. And it's not just general hospitalization. They're splitting out hospitalization for non-COVID versus COVID. Admissions, ICU usage, ventilator usage, again, COVID and non-COVID alike. They're looking at all those data points, and now they have a baseline that they want to stay close to. I think everybody is under the belief that if you start to open doors, we're going to see things creep back up. What they don't want to have happen is it just take off again. So you'd open the gates. That's the vernacular they use in Washington. You have measurables, and you camp on that, and you want to see a trend over a 2-week period of time that does not go the wrong way. So that is where that's where we're getting to. And now I'm not saying on May 1st everything's going to change, and on May 1st nothing may change, but I think what is actually being done, and I would say the tenor of the public speaking, if you will, the governor and his people, and even the president and his people, if you listen to our medical lead person is Box, the federal lead person is Burks, right? Something like that. She laid out the whole gated concept, and I think everybody has thought, someone like Fauci would come in and just say, no, everybody's got to stay, battened down until we have a vaccine and this is all cleared. He went right along with her. I think he said, again, we have to measure the data, we have to look at that, and the guidelines were well thought out. I will say the governor, who had been on a call with Washington after his meeting yesterday, it sounds like there's a lot of belief that this is a pretty well thought out concept of here's the things that you might look at. Here are the things you might look at first, and the measurables that you want to make sure you're staying within. The reality is our state, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, Kentucky, New Mexico, all these different states are going to be different, and that you need to have some plan for how you want to go forward. So good news. Hopefully hopefully we've seen the end of snow. I'm looking out in my window. There's still some on the roof, but at least on the ground, for the most part, it's my parking lot's melted. There's still some on the grass, but it's getting thinner than it was this morning when I came in. Hopefully this is the last we see of snow for several months, and we'll start to see the temperature come around. They will put together a plan, and over the course of the next week and a half or so, we'll start to hear what that May 1st shift might do. What's that gate parameters? Here's where we are now. Stay at home, essential. Don't go out unless you have to. All that stuff that's kind of holding us here. They're going to start to define what that next parameter is. Where are we going to set the gates next? And then what is our reasonable expectation and acceptance of what those numbers are going to be? So as the governor said, we have got the next, what's today? 17. We've got the next 10, 13 days to put together, gather the data that's coming back from the people out in the field and in the workplace, assess where they are. What can they take on? You still have thousands of people in the state that, are we at thousands? I'm trying to remember what our number was today, who are reportedly testing positive. But I think one of the other things that came out of today was how many people who have gotten better and come out. They had some interesting data about hospitalization average. I think the average hospitalization related to COVID was 9 days. If you went into ICU, it was 10 days. I think that was the number that she was talking about. So, that's average. So, I mean, obviously some people are going to be more, some people less, but they are at 10,000 positive cases have been reported over the course of the history of this. You're going to see testing numbers rocket up. If you want to follow the state numbers, it's coronavirus.in.gov. Once a day, they update everything there. They've broken out a second layer that covers kind of a shortened window of time, snapshot of the last couple of days or so. So, like, for example, 14th, 15th, and 16th, there were 642 new reported cases. There were 42 new deaths that occurred actually this month. So 642 cases, but 42 deaths April 3rd through the 16th. And they did 3,700 tests in April. I think she said that testing number is going to go up in leaps and bounds. They had the most tests reported yesterday in any one day since they started doing this. So a lot more data is coming out. They have decided what their data points are. They actually, on that same website, it talks about the percentages of available beds, how many beds are being used for COVID cases and how many are non-COVID. That's ICU beds. We're still at about 50% of beds available in ICU. Ventilator usage, there's 75% of the available ventilators of the population of ventilators. 13 are for use right now in COVID cases, and about a tick under 11% are non-COVID. So, they've drawn their data points. They know what they're gonna measure. They've brought some professional data processing and data analysis people in to extract this information and put it in very usable forms and come up with, again, benchmarks to say, okay, we're not gonna do anything that puts us in a worse situation, or we're not gonna let it go if it does appear to be worse. So again, good news abounds here on a Friday for our little faux happy hour get together. And just to kind of recap, I didn't want to go too long, though I will say I am having my own little happy hour beverage, my summer favorite, Bell's Oberon, which has gone back to its old design. Confused me on the shelf. I don't need that help. I'm confused enough as it is. But for some reason, Bell's went to a different logo after years of having this logo, and they brought it back this summer. So that was, I would also say, good news. So our happy hour good news on this wrap up of Friday as we start to hit our five. Again, we truly did our little law firm had a standing Friday meeting at Perea. We could down see Jimmy and the gang and kind of debrief and decompress from the week and kind of share what's going on in our professional and personal lives, and just get out and enjoy life a little bit. And that's the sort of stuff that is honestly missing, the social engagement. I went to Acorn Farms up in Chesterton today to pick up some stuff, and was talking to them about some of their business things that are going on and how they're adjusting to these things. And one of the things you find is, you're seeking out these social engagement opportunities and taking advantage of them when you can, honestly and appropriately, socially distancing and honoring those requests. So picked up some great farm fresh stuff and looking forward to some pulled pork this weekend from that purchase. But all that said, that's me personally. It's happy hour, right? So let's share a story. The thing I'll say, just in recap, in case you jumped in late, the really, really good news for the unemployment world out there, if you can have good news about unemployment. We talked on Monday about people being workers, 2 categories, your traditional employee category. If you're in the system and receiving, am I in the system? I'm not in the system. Hopefully you are. If you're already receiving benefits, you will start to see that $600 a week, your next check. And I believe that first check will be the backup check too, to go back to where you would have qualified from that. The second category of people, the good news is the information gathering website will be up. Targeted date, April 24th. For those in this independent contractor, self-employed, and gig economy work world, you will be able to go submit your information into that website. The target date for that website to be up on unemployment.in.gov is April 24th. The target date for money to start getting out to those people who qualify, May the 4th. This is good news, people. There's this, you figure this stuff past March 27th. It's going to be about a month. There's been a lot of non-information out there in this period of time, and we've accomplished a lot in terms of forward progress in this week. The other bit of good news is that people are starting to get that. I think some people call them stimulus checks, but that money's starting to show up. I think there's a website. I want to say it's Get My Payment is the website. Through the IRS, and that's not it. Don't go to Get My Payment. Go to irs.gov/coronavirus/Get My Payment, and that is where you'll find out information about the status of your situation. Christina, I didn't see. I'm sorry, I didn't. My comments didn't scroll. Anyway, so there's the link for you to go check. Sadly, I'm not even in the system. As I said, I'm not in the system, and so that's unfortunate. But you can check, and it will tell you whether you've your check is on the way, or if there's something that might be holding it up. There may be some additional information that's necessary. Mine was no status available. So that's not necessarily happy, but we'll trend to the happy side anyway. So again, hopefully that works out for people, and that you will see that in your checking account soon. So unemployment, the newly redefined term for stay at home will be worked on over the course of the next week or so. And hopefully we'll start to see some ice break in this whole thing going forward. So hope you found this helpful, and hopefully you found it uplifting a little bit. Weather isn't so uplifting, but we have hopefully brighter days ahead. And again, we'll keep working forward in this little new world order that they're all operating in. I hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully we'll get out and be able to do stuff in the yard, or maybe even see the golf course at some point in the not too distant future. People get out on the lakes and such. Well, unless of course you live in Michigan, then you have to be real careful about how you get out on the lake. But otherwise, enjoy time with your family, enjoy time socially distancing from others, and I do hope that you are well and stay safe, and we keep moving this thing in the right direction. Take care, and as always, you can always visit ccsklaw.com for additional information about what's happening. And yes, Ricky, the answer is you are self-employed, so you would have been denied. You have to wait for this thing to come up on April 24th, where you will put your information in. It was a flaw in the system. I talked about it in the video on Monday. People who would not otherwise be qualified for unemployment benefits because you were self-employed, you didn't have reported income to the state, got denied. And it was kind of a defeating process that they made everybody go through. But what they had to do is they should have just told people this, just wait until we get this other system set up. And then the people in the self-employed column of displaced workers, you'll put your information in this new website. Target date, April 24th at unemployment.in.gov. And that should be the one where you get the information or the federal funding. So the $600 a week comes from the feds. It's a different test. It's a different approval process. And really, it just wasn't in place. But for some reason, the state told everybody to go through the normal unemployment process. So fear not. If you wouldn't have qualified for benefits as a self-employed person, you're not going to get those benefits anyway. But you want to get into that other system so that you can get the federal money, the $600 a week. So we'll probably update something as we hear things. We'll try to keep people in the loop. I guess, yeah, we'll everybody cross your fingers and hope that Congress finds some sanity and they get the additional funding for the PPP passed very, very quickly. Because there's a lot of people that didn't get a chance to get their applications processed. Heck, we're still waiting. We're still waiting for ours, and we were right on top of it at the beginning. So, it's it. There's plenty of frustration in this, and there's plenty of places where things are getting dropped. But again, we'll forge ahead. Keep keep listening. We'll keep trying to direct as best we can, and we'll let you know if that April 24th date is going to be the date, and then what the process will be. And hopefully, we'll have an idea of what you'll need to provide. If as soon as we hear that stuff, we'll share it. So again, hope everybody is well, and let us know. I'll check back in the comments if you have any thoughts or other questions you might have. I'll try to address those as I see them. Thanks.